Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. Let's talk about Sungrant Studios. A lot of people are talking about him, and he put a couple of weird videos out there. One of them he took down, and then he was thanking some of the what do they call them now, grifters out there for the team they had formed. That he has to walk away, yada yada yada. You know, from what I gather from all this gibberish that he's put out there, he's just felt some sort of way because after he was attacked online, he didn't feel that his team had his back. Right? He thought people would come out and defend him, yada yada yada. And let me just say, this is the most awkward way, the weirdest way I've ever seen somebody come to the right decision. And let me tell you why. Right? You have to pick your poison. Do you want to be involved in making video games, or do you want to be a YouTuber? Not only that, do you want to be a YouTuber that criticizes other game studios? That is not business friendly. Right? You got to pick your lane. If your dream is to be in business, to have your own business, and to be involved in any business, by the way, your job is to sell to the most amount of people possible. Your job is going to include some concessions that you have to make in your private life, right? I don't know if you guys remember a couple of years ago, I had to stop making a certain type of content because the company that, signed a contract with, they had certain social media stipulations, which at that time I didn't meet. I just wasn't meeting them, right? I wasn't business friendly, right? So I had to change some things. Now that I'm later on in life, now I'm semi-retired, right? And I don't stay in one place pretty much. I travel around between 3 countries, and guys, that's not a flex. It's just that's where my families are, right? My wife is Filipina, my kids are half Mexican, and of course I was born here in the U.S., right? So I'm always going around different places, wherever I need to be, and I'm semi-retired, between the U.S. and the Philippines, and I travel to see my family, and that's how I get around. So the conditions that a job would put on me at this period of my life is quite different than I used to before, right? Now I'm private consultant. I don't care, right? It's my own business. I set the rules. I might sign a contract here or there that might require that again, but I don't have that right now. But in his case, where he's making video games that he's selling for Nintendo on Nintendo platforms, and of course he wants to sell them everywhere. Well, to do that, right? You can't be offending people on the internet. Guess what? Liberals buy video games, Republicans buy video games, religious people buy video games. Everybody buys video games of every walk of life, right? Your job is to sell to all of them. And if you're going to sell to all of them, you can't offend them. That's just the name of the game. And if not, look at all major studios that are successful. They don't get involved in these politics. And not only that, they don't let their employees get involved in any of this crap. It's unnecessary. It's bad for business, period. When they don't rein these people in, it doesn't matter what their political affiliation is. It's always bad for business. Look at what's happened to major titles right now for a lot of game studios. And right now it's mostly, I would say, liberal people that are getting in trouble. But way before, it was more conservative, where they had more, more extreme point of views, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Right? But people are getting canceled left and right. And it's easier for people to cancel you when you work for a company that has very stringent policies. Among those players is Nintendo. And Nintendo doesn't like people who rock the boat. Not if you're going to have a close relationship with them. Not if your long-term goal is to, work side by side with people in Nintendo, for example, like he wanted to do at some point. It's not going to work, right? If you're trying to create the same kind of content as, Hypnotic or Smash JT, or if people relate you to them, right? You have to pick a lane. They make a good living doing that stuff, and maybe he got enamored by the attention. Maybe he was concerned, about the same things they're concerned about. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because in the retail business, you have to be open for everybody. Michael Jordan once famously said, Republicans buy tennis shoes too, or, sneakers too, right? And Jordans are for everybody. And he picked the most awkwardest way of coming to the right decision for his business. Now, if you want to be a YouTuber, go ahead and be a YouTuber. And if you want to make your living doing that, good luck. I mean, that's a 3-4 year career tops. You have to save your money. But if you went to school, if you have skills, then it's a proposition that really doesn't hold any value for you, right? It actually holds negative value. If you're a person whose skills can make you over $100,000 a year constantly, YouTube is not a place where you want to piss your career away. You don't. And I'm sure if they haven't done so, they will. Somebody's going to come to them and say, hey, you need to cut this stuff out or we can't work with you. Period. It's our company policy. So for the health of his studios, if anything, he should be off of YouTube. He should just be making videos about his own games, and he wants to make this positive videos, yada yada yada. I guess he has a need to do YouTube, which is absolutely nuts. Why don't you just get rid of YouTube and just make great games? Why don't you concentrate on that? Right? Put your energy towards that instead of selling $20 games on Nintendo. Why don't you make a great game and sell a $40 game? Right? I mean, if that is your dream, do that. But I'm telling you, this whole thing is just weird. It was like passive aggressive. He got offended that people attacked him. He was mad that people didn't come to his defense, people that he saw on his team. The whole thing is just weird. And I don't like it when people are not direct. He should just say, look, I'm pissed because of this. And he's like, it's not your fault, it's my fault. Yes, it's your fault. Shut your pie hole. If you want to be a game developer, develop games, talk about your games, be positive, whatever, sell your games, market your games. But if you want to be a YouTuber, then be a YouTuber. And if you want to be a YouTuber, people are going to hate you. People are think you're going to be stupid. Yes, nobody's going to come to your defense because everybody has a good laugh. Right? Everybody has a good laugh at your expense, and you're going to be popular one day and you're one video away from being a complete idiot. That's the way it works. And if you don't like that, you shouldn't be on YouTube. And YouTube is not something you should jeopardize your business for, or your career, for that matter. But like I said, this whole thing is just weird. He came to the right decision for his business, but in the most awkward way possible. All right, humans, I will catch you on the next one. Take care.